What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of the A to Z series brought to you by the Card Guys. And today we're going to try to reach our final Zen state. And we're going to be talking about Zen Tamer of Purpose. And I couldn't think of anybody better than to bring Pudding Tam, the ninja player, to kind of talk with us about this particular ninja, even though he knows both of them. And yeah, so let's just, I'm going to give you the floor to just kind of introduce yourself, Team Blue Pitch, what you guys are doing. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm Putin, and I'm from Team English. Team English is a Hong Kong comparative flash and blood team which have a lot of talented player, and yeah, I think I hope you can see us in the stream. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, how long have you been playing Ninja? I know you played Katsu at, you got what the finalist in a calling, and then also got top 8 at Worlds, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
with both on Katsu before Zen came out. So, how long exactly have you been playing Ninja?
So actually, I have been playing Katsu since the Monarch, which is I just joined to Flash and Blood, and I was playing the Turtle Katsu in the chain meta until Briar is out. Then I switched to Briar. After that, I just back to Katsu, and now I'm playing Sand. So I think I can say around 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And did you have any long period of time that you spent any serious amount of time on Fi? I know that's one ninja that we haven't talked about a little bit yet.
Oh, Fi. uh, I played Fi a bit before the stubby ban.
Okay.
So after the ban, I just go back to play Brian. Yeah.
Sure. It makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about Zen. And once again, just in case it's anybody's first time joining us on the series, since it is the second episode, we're doing the A to Z series as a way to introduce people to the hero, whether it be maybe you're having some trouble playing against that hero, you need to learn a little bit more about it, or you're looking to play it and you're just looking for like a little bit of detail and kind of how we're not going to go super deep, but we are going to provide some like matchup advice, things of that nature, both playing against and with. And we basically have your Pro Tour top 8 deck tech that we're going to do as a little sub part of the video. And let's go ahead and just hop into it. So when you brought Zen to the Pro Tour specifically, what was the thought
Hmm.
process other than most people considered it being probably the best deck, if not maybe top 2 or top 3, is the lowest I ever saw it on anybody's list. What angle were you trying to attack the meta in by bringing Zen to the Pro Tour?
So I think the Pro Tour meta is whether you play a aggro deck or a mid-range control like New, or you play Illusionist like Prism or Enigma, and it's not uh um it's not like a really triangle meta, but it's kind of it. So uh my thought is if I play Sand, I can beat all the illusionists, and is one of the I'll just say it's the best algo that I think. So I just dodge new and everything will be fine.
And now that we're learning maybe Azuri too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so basically just playing the best aggro deck, which makes perfect sense. I heard for the longest time you never want to play the second fastest aggro deck unless you have a very good reason. So it makes a lot of sense.
Mm,
Um, Comparing specifically, because I know Katsu had a lot of success before this set came out, and I don't think anything that came out in this set really hurt him. Uh, other than maybe the higher inclusion of amnesia to target Zen is kind of like getting hit by a stray a little bit. But what is the main reason to play Zen over Katsu or even Fi in this particular meta?
Mm, so obviously there's the banner recession after the bonds, and I think after that, Katsu is not really competitive playable, which is my opinion, and that's one of the reason. And the second reason is Sam has the better armor. He has the best armor in all the ninja class, which make him can block 7 without giving any hand, and you can gain extra cards from the equipment, which is insane. So yeah, I think the equipment part is the main reason.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely say that he has the best armor kit out of all ninjas, maybe even in the entire game right now. Just getting the value off of those boots and then the constant value on Shuko, and then of course Traverse is just a whole nother monster, right? So let's go ahead and dig into the list. And it does look very similar to what we've been seeing before the bonds ban. So obviously the blue and yellow bonds ban did not completely alter the deck. It looks like you just took the deck and kind of made some adaptations and adjustments. So the first thing I want to talk about is what did you change? How many bonds were you on before? What did you change those into? What are some other things that you had to change as a byproduct?
So the before the bans, I was playing only red and blue, so it's total of 6 bonds. I trip on and guess what as a extender instead of the main game plan, which some sand builds is like all around the bonds of ancestry and descending Gustwave combo with the Mr. Beast. But my deck build is more like a mid-range, which can block in some matchup. So yeah, I just won 6 bonds before the bans, and after the bans, I just won 3, of course. But I cut one descending Gustwave threat to 2, which I think is a right call. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that is also a little bit out of the ordinary, most people have CNC in the sideboard. You have it in the main board. What's your main reasoning for that?
Because after I have my sideboard guy into every matchup, I think CNC will be there maybe 80% of the matchup. And in those matchup that CNC is not good, I'll just side in the Flick Flag, which is my favorite value card, 2 card for 9. So yeah, I think CNC and Flick Flag is very good replacement for each other. So that's the reason I think CNC is totally fine in the main board because many matchup will play it.
Okay. And do you play it in the mirror?
Yeah.
Okay. So with kind of, I like to call them basically counter cards, right? Trying to put pressure on the opponent that's trying to do their game plan. But there is the counter argument that the CNC can technically kind of clump up your hands a little bit when you're trying to do your thing. Uh, what is the justification or the reasoning on how you deem that it's worth playing the card and running the risk of kind of maybe having a clunky hand here or there because you're running a 2 cost instead of a 0 cost?
Hmm. So in my deck list, there have 9 finisher, I would say. I'll call it it's CNC, E-Strike, and Marlin Chi. I think only 9 card without combo is totally fine. And the biggest problem is when you AtoZ and you draw multiple non-go again action, which will happen, and it does cost me 1 game in the Pro Tour, but I think those cards are very good into the mid-range game plan, and they also block free. So yeah, I just don't care to play Sand just a little bit slower, so I can just set up and play value at the game.
Makes sense. And of course, we have aspect of body, bonds, and chase the tail. Those are pretty much considered staples at these points. Aspect of tiger body, for me personally, when I played Zen, just was an overperformer. Just being able to go grab that on a lean curve, and really the combination of aspect and chase the tail, and being able to turn that on very easily. Let's hop up to the equipment though a little bit. We of course have the standard equipment loadout, and we have Mask of the Pouncing links in the
Hmm.
sideboard specifically. So, what is that there for?
So the links is only for Kano matchup. I know many people are playing two AB and two Spell Void, and I was just more used to the free AB with the link setup. So the links why it's good in the Kano matchup is because you can always like let's say you play a spin wheel K, it hit, you can search for a blue descending dust wave, and you play it, you transcend, you can go for bonds, or just play it as a value card, so you can search for Tiger Swipe for extra 4 damage. And I have some spicy card in my blues. I play one Harmony of the Hunt blue, which is sometimes it will pretty good. Uh, in the Kano matchups because you can play a chase tail and then you pop your mask and you search for
Mhm.
a blue Harmony of the Hunt, so you get an extra tiger. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just for Kano.
Okay. And then, of course, I'm assuming that Zephyr Needle is for any kind of aggro matchup where you
Hmm.
basically get more value when they block with their cards.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not the one who think about the stepping needle first, but after I test
Mhm.
it, they are genius. Yeah,
It's really good. It's really good. Even
it's
even
really good.
matchups like KO, right, where they don't mind to block it. It's still really good to be able to pressure that hand and say, "Look, you really need to give me cards, or this value is going to get out of hand really quickly." One thing
Yeah.
that does stand out a little bit is blue biting breeze. It seems like a somewhat newer inclusion. Some people were running them in the Nat season, but it wasn't what I would consider standard. So, what's your thought process behind blue biting breeze?
Yeah, so after the bonds blend, so you have to play six crappy brew. So in my testing, I think because many times you play a blue 100 win with one goal again and you translate it, you always feel good. That's the reason I play the blue biting breeze because it's a zero attack. Instead of the also zero cost is a wind chakra, which buffly is good and have a free value. But the biggest problem is they have free chi that have to target an attack, which wind chakra can do. And I think in the aggro matchup, the first thing you want to do is get your first chi. So you can activate your traverse and you can just go off when the turn is come. And the Breaking Beast also have another beneficial is when the Breaking Beast attack for one, if your opponent didn't have heavy armor, they won't like to block it, right? It's just a one
Mhm.
create tiger. But once they hit, you can go for transcend and you search for tracer tail, and you got two tiger, one from your breaking beast, one from your activation, and you also have the one resource from the Kasaya. So that will be chaser tail is coming for 7 of total, and breaking beast 1, and the Shuko, so that's 2 cut 9. I think it's pretty good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you mentioned that your number one goal in the aggro matchups were to transcend early. Now, in Flesh and Blood, we kind of like train ourselves to arsenal our more powerful cards, right? And kind of wait for opportunities to utilize them. Do you take it as far as really highly prioritizing easy to transcend cards in Arsenal early in the game? So that way, when you draw your trend, like most people probably wouldn't think to Arsenal a blue biting breeze, right? They would either block with it or maybe pitch it, or block with their 3 block that blocked more, right? Uh, but are you highly prioritizing arsenaling blues that are easily transcendable? Uh, to kind of are you going that far to be able to transcend?
Yeah. So in this deck, there's have few target that I always want to arsenal. So obviously there's Art of War and Ancestral Harmony. And other than that, it's just any blue. Like if there's a turn, let's say I have 3 red card and a transcend blue, sometimes I'll even just block all the red and try to get my transcend card into my arsenal so I can have a transcend next turn. Um, in this deck, it's quite often that you will pitch a red to play a blue card to get you to transcend. Um, so yeah, the first transcend is so important for assassin matchup and the algo matchup. Other than that, you can just go to the value plan and you will transcend in the game. So yeah, it depends on the matchup.
Okay. And I do see that we're running, if I'm not mistaken, every single transcend card, which I think has become pretty standard. I think the only one that was kind of in contention, or some people think that the sacred art domain is it is a little bit clunky, and then maybe drop in the ocean can be a little weird to utilize sometimes. But I think most people are on all transcend cards because, like you mentioned earlier, it's such a high priority that you just want to be able to do it whenever you possibly can. But one thing that does stick out a little bit is the book Orion
Hmm.
of Mystic Tenets. That is a card, especially with bonds blue coming out of the deck, decreasing that 3 block density, adding a no block to further make yourself more vulnerable to weakest link and whatnot. So, what is your thought process on the inclusion of that card?
I always a Orion believer. Before the ban, I still play it.
Okay.
Just because there's a I think it's one of the power cards that you can play. Like if you draw the Orion, you can block with your Traverse and try to go insane turn. And yeah, it's one extra non-block card, but I think this card power is worth to sacrifice some defense because it's also so good to with the 0 cost transcend card like Harmony, like the Ancestral Harmony, 100 Winds or Biting Breeze, because you will have an extra resource from your Kasaya, so you just need 1 0 cost blue card and 1 transcend card, and you can draw 3 card of it. So yeah, anytime I just like this card, it's not too hard to draw free, and at worst you just pitch it, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but which transcend card has the best art?
Best art. My personal favorite, I'll say is Rising Sun Setting Moon. I just
Oh,
like it.
I thought your favorite was gonna be Stir the Pot. It seemed
Teleport,
very on theme. Yeah. That's my
and
favorite. I
also,
love Stir the Pot.
I'm not a cat person. I'm more like a dog person. That's why
Okay,
maybe.
we'll leave that one for Jack. We'll leave that one for Jack. He's the cat person. Okay, so
And
let's dig
Kaiser.
into we kinda covered most things. Yeah, Kaiser as well. We've covered most things that kind of stood out, in the main board. Obviously, everybody is on levels of enlightenment. The card's busted. There is obviously the very important interaction where you can hold priority on its resolution and go ahead and transcend and put that chi into the pitch zone to get 2 modes or even 3 modes if you've already pitched a blue. That's very important to consider. let's go ahead and dig into your three. We've already went over the equipment and the sideboard as well. So let's talk about flick, flack, snag, and diplomacy. So what matchups are we kind of bringing in flick, flack? Where do we need that 2 card 9 value extracted?
Mm, like I said before, it's for the matchup that CNC is not good. And also I play it in the assassin matchup. And like, okay, so for the Argo matchup is KO because he got a lot of armor, so CNC is not that good, I think, in my opinion. And the other thing is dash, yes. And dash, because they usually just go boost dash. And I think it's important to have your defense value when your hand is not good. So you just like block your whole hand and try to wait your Art of War and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much. Also, I play Flick Flag in Prism matchup because Prism have a lot of 7 attack, so I just want to keep their soul low in the early game, and this card work pretty good.
Okay. And obviously, snag is going to be, I'm assuming, primarily for new. And most people would say that it's a bad card against Azuri. However, with Shoma's version of Azuri playing Justin Nick and stuff like that, do you entertain the idea of putting that card in the deck against Azuri?
I think Snag is only good against new,
Just new. Yep.
so just new, I think. But if your deck have different reaction, for me, it's Strike Flight. I think it's enough to for the Usuru player that is not good as Shoma, I would say. So maybe 3 to 6 different reaction is good enough in this matchup. You don't have to play Snack. Yeah.
Makes
Because
sense. And then
you also have like Shad. So if you like they play a bonds of what? Agony, yeah,
agony.
bonds of
Yep.
agony. You block with your boots and you try to snack them. Maybe they will just shed you, and it's just not good, I think.
Okay. And then Warmonger's diplomacy obviously going to be for what? Azalea and Runeblade?
Yeah, Azalea won't play and Bolton Max because you want to stop their for Max is like is for their what's their card called? I forget the name.
Oh, the construct, the mechanoid.
Yeah, yeah, the Mechanoid,
Yep.
yeah. So
Mhm.
if they didn't block you the whole turn, you just Warmonger and they have to give like 10 damage for free and you get a short turn. And for the other one, what? For
Rune
Australia,
Bolton.
yeah,
Bolton.
yeah, Bolton, yeah. Australia and Wound base obviously is good, and for Bolton, it's the same reason you want to stop their Lumina turn. If they are not playing into the Lumina game plan, you just normally you'll win. You'll just lose to the like
Yep.
double Lumina and Fierce Wing.
Yep. And at worst, it's a non-attack block 3, right? So you don't turn on their hero ability.
Yeah.
So it's not the worst card in that situation. I think that's probably the reason why diplomacy is so good is there's so little opportunity cost to run it. So okay, so we pretty much covered most of the cards. Now we're gonna dig into a little bit kind of strategy, just kind of how to play the deck, maybe how to play against it. Now, I would consider where the skill ceiling comes from when playing Zen is when to use that equipment, right? You get one shot, either getting the tiger into hand, traverse, or maybe even activating the chess piece for that Zen state token in the mirror match to kind of buy yourself a runway. So, give me some examples. You can go as many as you want, as few as you want. just give me some examples of maybe some ways that you've seen people utilize the equipment that you don't think maybe is optimal, and give me some examples of like great ways to use the equipment.
Okay, so I always tell people when they said how to play, why they will lose to Enigma or Prism, and I think one of the reasons for Enigma, um, their win con is they play a mirror guy, and the mirror guy stay for maybe 2 turn, and you will lose tempo and you will lose the game. So for that case, I usually will just save the traverse or the boots to get rid of their mirror guy. Because
Okay.
if they play a mirror guy and you draw 4 random card, and those cards is not good enough to get rid of the mirror guy, you have a chance to lose it. And yeah, that is one of the things that I told people in the Enigma matchup. You want to save your armor and don't just block it easily. And for Prism, because they have Atlas Sentinel, so if it's possible, I will use the head piece and the leg piece separate. Because if you go all in, you block with your boots, you block with your head, and you got 6 cards in your hand, and they have an ally sentinel, you will fall back so much, I think. So yeah, the illusionist matchup, I think you don't want to block with your leg and your head together. That's the first thing. And the Argo matchup, yeah, talk about the Kasaya. Like for Mirror, when I will do the traverse into Kasaya sand stage thing, is I will calculate around the damage what my opponent can do. For example, if my opponent is at let's say 40 lives, yeah, 30 lives, and then I'm at maybe 20. So if I took all the damage this turn, I will probably just lose the game because I can't push back 30 damage to them. And at that case, I will block with the Traverse and Kasaya to try to stay healthy until I get a Art of War or Harmony turn and try to win the game from there. So yeah, I think the Kasaya is good to the class that have multi-attack, like Ninja and maybe also Kaio, because Kaio they have 1 or 2 burst turn as like a 4 or 4 chain lane, something like that. So you can have a 4 or yeah, because the sand stage will stay for 2 turn. So normally you will have at least 5 value of it. And I think a good Kasaya activate, you have to get maybe 5 to 6 value of it. And at that time, you can consider to use your Kasaya for sand stage. Yeah, I think that's pretty much of it. And uh, if you in a game that you transcend maybe 4 to 5 card, at that time, don't be afraid to just block with your Kasaya and save your Shuko for the late game, because that 1 damage is quite often you have a 1 damage turn from the Shuko. So yeah, some matchup I just block with Kasaya and try to save the Shuko. And in some matchup, it will be the opposite. It depends on how many transcend cards you draw. And yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. And one thing about the boots specifically, I know a lot of people found comfort in just kind of waiting for the boots whenever they drew that first Art of War, right? Because it's just so easy
Mm,
to block with those boots, pitch for the Art of War, or maybe even Transcend where you don't even have to pitch and then banish the tiger and draw 2, right? So you effectively just turn your boots into a free card. Is that how you see yourself? Obviously, it's going to depend on the matchup and in the game state, but like, do you see yourself taking that line very often, or do you try to be a little bit more disciplined and kind of wait for certain opportunities rather than that one?
hmm. Uh, obviously it's the first target that the boots want to do is for the AtoZ, and in my game I quite often to try to get my boots with AtoZ unless I am like maybe 10 life. At that point I think I can't wait, so I'll just block the boots and maybe just play a Chaser Tail. Or sometimes you can play a E-Strike and sending a Tiger back, so you got an extra value, which happens sometimes, but not quite often. And that's one extra thing that the boots can do, and I think many people not notice is, for example, you got 2 red in your card, and you have a Ancestral Harmony and a Transcend card that need to target attack. So normally you can't transcend or you have to push a red. In that case, you can block with your boots, you play your harmony, you play your tiger, and then you play your transcend that need to target. So you can get the transcend without pushing your card. And that is one little thing that I will thinking when I have like clunky hand like this. Should I have to block the boots and try to get the transcend this turn as soon as possible? And yeah, that's the boots that not using with AtoZ that I would do. It maybe one is just for value for the Chaser Tail or Tiger Swipe, and the second one is the Transcend Chi that have to target attack.
Okay. And one last question on the equipment. Do you consider like life thresholds in your traverse? I'll give you an example, right? Like, let's say you're at 8 life or so and you have not transcended because of obviously rough draws or whatever the case may be. Are you just looking? Because obviously you're going to have to survive and then kind of cash in that traverse and then actually be able to utilize the chi. When do you call it quits on trying to find the right moment and then just cash in that block value to say stop an on hit effect? Or is it really, really just case by case basis?
Because like I said, I prioritize my first transcend so high, so that happened.
Very
That
rare.
Yeah, very, very, very rarely. And most of the time, if you are dead and you have to block with your traverse and you don't get a transcend, you're like 99% you're losing anyway. But
Right.
yeah, but if you want to block like a weakest lane and you got a pop off hand like an AtoZ, then yeah, you can do it, but I prefer to get transcend first. Yeah. If
Okay. I mean, that
your
makes perfect
traverse can
sense.
search, yeah, if your traverse can search, you're probably gonna lose.
Yeah. There's a reason we're running 28 blues, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and shift into matchup specific kind of, situation. So in the mirror match, um, obviously we're running the Zephyr needles and just trying to be as quick as possible. Are there any tips for the mirror match specifically?
Mm, I think the needle in the mirror mesh is doesn't have many special thing you can do. Beside you play a needle and you play CNC to bail your opponent free blocks, which quite often. So yeah, you play Shabu, you play needle, they block, and you play CNC. And it not just the mirror mashup, many mashup you can do this. And I think the needle it's hard to say you want to play push your needle first or after the combat chain, like the end of the combat chain. Uh, the easiest the easiest way is if you have a hit effect, then you send your needle first. If you don't have a hit effect, then you send your needle last. This is the simplest way, but not always right. Yeah, not much about the mirror matchup, but maybe Kyle, because they want to block a lot If they
Mhm.
have a hand that wants to block 6 and maybe just swing a swing back, something like that. In that case, I recommend to just send your needle after the chain.
Okay. And specifically for the mirror match, I want to talk about the Zen state token that could be produced off of the chess piece. Do you find yourself doing that when your opponent gets their big turn first? Or is it kind of when you get your first when you get the first big turn and you're trying to preserve the lead rather than push it?
Okay, so in our testing, I find out that Traverse plus Kasaya always get around 10 value with the sand stage. So if my turn with Traverse block to grab your chi have more than 8 damage output, then I will consider to search it. It's not that hard because let's say you draw a Gust Wave, you block your Traverse for a Bonds, that's already 4 plus maybe 4, so it's around 8 value with an Art of War is a 10.
Right.
So it's not that hard to do the Traverse into the aggressive way. And the other thing is how to decide whether you want to do a defensive Traverse or aggressive Traverse is your opponent life total. Because if you are playing in a mirror game, you have your break turn, but it's not enough to force your opponent give any hands or activate their Kasaya. It's meaningless. It is just
Right.
not doing thing. So every time you block with your Traverse, you just think, can you do lethal damage? That's the first thing. And the other thing is, can your opponent do lethal damage to you? And that's it. It just depends on you want to play a defensive Traverse or you want to send it for the damage.
So it all comes down to if that Zen state token will allow you on the next turn or maybe the following turn after that to keep your entire hand to push more damage, we start considering activating it. But if not, let's just go ahead and push life total.
Yes, and that case is quite often to when you're going second, you will normally you will have the tempo, so your opponent will be less health than you. So at that point, you will want to block your Traverse for damage. And if you go first, that's quite often that you want to block with your Traverse and Kasaya for a sand stage to stop your opponent to killing you, because they will have their damage one turn faster than you because they are going second. And
Mhm.
that's the reason to block with your sand stage and try to stay alive with full 5 hand and try to win from there.
Okay. And you mentioned going first or second. What is your preference in this deck in most matchups?
Um, I think most matchup you want to go second, but in the matchup that your opponent can set up for like uh Australia, because they can just go to dominate, work in
Mhm.
leisure and everything. You don't want to block with your armor that early. And maybe Reiner, although not much player are playing Reiner.
Right.
And I will also go first when I play against Enigma, because I want to have my arsenal first. And I don't want them to have um many aura in their field. And I know some Enigma want to go second because they are running the 246 and everything, but
Mhm.
personally, I like to go first more. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about the Victor matchup. That's one that anybody that picks up Zen is probably going to struggle with a lot, right? Because there's a lot of cards that actively affect Zen, and Victor has one of the unique abilities to kind of get a lot more runway as far as life total is concerned because they're drawing cards off of clashes. that are pretty easy to win, and they can keep blocking with those cards if they need to, looking for those windows. So, what is your strategy into Victor?
So for Victor, obviously it's the worst matchup you can have. Um, I will try to set up a AtoZ or a Harmony turn with Traverse and your boots to get maybe 30 or 40 damage a turn. Because other than that, you play the failure game, you play mid range, you will lose at the end of the game. So my game plan is save your armor and get a good arsenal like AtoZ or Ancestral Harmony, and try to play a 5-card hand with Traverse with your boots, and you have a big enough turn to get them to a single digit, so you can lock them out of the game. And yeah, that not much you can do, because your Victor opponent will tell you how to play the game, because they will play something with hit effect. You have to block it. You have
Right.
no choice. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Just try to set up a big turn, and if that turn is big enough, you can win the game. Other than that, you will lose it anyway.
Right. All right. Let's talk about the other rough one, new, right? I've seen all types of strategies where it's play a lean 60 to increase the opportunity of finding that window. I've seen people running 66, 69 cards to give you more time to see the opportunity, because everybody's just trying to take advantage of one opportunity when new has that quote unquote new hand where it's the 4-card hand that produces 4 damage and doesn't really disrupt. But like what is your strategy going into it? Obviously you have a little bit more defensive options in the form of flick flack.
Yeah. So play against new, you have 2 ways to go, but either way, you need to have a good enough turn to get the life total down. It's kind of like Vector, but instead of they hit hard with a hit effect, they just chip damage until you're dead. And but my game plan is kind of the same. You want to save your armor, you want to set up a turn, and but that's a little bit different. Is if you play failure into new, sometimes you will ruin the game. Like if you block 2 cards, send an E-Try, send a CNC for a couple turn, and because new damage output is so little, maybe they have 4 hand and their whole turn is dealing 4 damage instead of 10 from Victor. So because of that, sometimes you play failure, you will have chip damage and you will eventually win the failure game of it. But do be careful, they can fatigue you sometime. I got fatigued by Tarek in the last round of my Swiss one. I took him down to 1, but eventually I got that out. Because I want to play a failure game, but it ended up not doing the thing. And the second thing is I play 2 flag instead of 3, just because I don't want my opponent can count my 3 flag. So they search my
Okay.
graveyard. It only have 2 in it,
Okay.
so the third one will
Okay.
never come in.
Nice.
And obviously you play snack. And yeah, that's one thing that people will argue is I will style level of enactment and the Orihorn in this matchup. I know some people will still play the level of enactment in the new matchup, but I think it's just too risky to have the one of the best blue card in the game to let them to use it. They most likely will have at least 2 more or maybe 3 more, and you will lose it for the enlightenment 5 go again, 5 go again, again. And I will try out those 4 cards, and I also will try out 1 spinning wheel cake, and for the 2 effect, so I play 61 deck. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my plan to new. Just try to set up if when they have the window, to let you pop off, you send it. Well, if they have a off turn and your hand is not amazing, it may be just kind of mid, you still want to go, because the first thing you want to do is go full damage, maybe took them to 10, and you play the value game and you can win the value game. That's the first thing you want to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, just don't try to save your equipment for your insane Art of War. How many turns they probably gonna stop you. So once they have the window, you just go. It's not
Right.
that good, but you still have to go, I think.
Yep. And when you side in snag or diplomacy, what card are you most likely taking out?
Oh,
Not necessarily
um,
in that matchup, just in general.
yeah. For snack, I just said it's only for new, so it's level of alignment and Orihorn.
Gotcha.
And for the Warmonger diplomacy, uh, there's two situations. One is for Azalea. So for Azalea, I will sign out those two blocks. So I will sign out Blue Harmony of the Hunt and two Biting Bricks, because they block two. And you want to block when your opponent have a like huge effect like Rain Leisure or Remorseless. So I think free block is more value from for this matchup. And the other one is like like what I said is Maxwell or Bolton. And at that matchup, you don't really care your free block. You care your transcend and the consistency of your decks. So I will style Tiger Form Incantation and Wind Chakra and one Biting Breeze, because in those matchups they want to block a lot. So I think Harmony of the Hunt is better than Biting Breeze. So yeah, that's my sideboard. I style Tiger Form, Wind Chakra, and one Biting Breeze
Mhm.
for those matchups that I don't care the free blocks.
Right. Sounds good. And let's talk about Dash. What's the game plan? I know there's a lot of debate around, do you put in that piece of null rune to play around T-Bone? I've seen stuff as crazy as playing two pieces of null rune to play around it, which I think is a little out there. But what's your opinion on that matchup as a whole, specifically also T-Bone specifically?
So obviously my dice didn't have Battle One equipment, so whether I play no wound or just don't care about the T-Bone. So in my testing, I tried play no wound, but because no wound literally does nothing beside for the T-Bone, so I find out that if I play no wound, I will lose the game because I leaking off one equipment.
Right.
And I do consider the Battle Worn Arm Piece, I forgot the name, but it can give your next Crouching Tiger +2, and it's a Battle Worn block 1. So if
Hmm.
I have the slot for it, and I think the battlefield will have a lot of maybe dash and max, then I probably will bring the Battle Worn Arm Piece for this matchup. But yeah, in my deck, I doesn't have the slot, and I didn't respect it. I just play Shuko and every
Okay.
breakback equipment. I think it's fine because you play no wound, you will lose the game. So you can't play no wound.
Okay. And then going into Azalea, I know you have the option of playing Flick Flack, which doesn't really usually, unless there's a bolt and shot or snaps involved, you don't get the extra value from Flick Flack. But there's also that point of contention where, you know, Azalea is one of those decks where if she doesn't have that on hit that you really, really care about, you need to be able to punish no matter what your hand is. So if you run cards like Flick Flack, you might have it on the turn where you really need to go, 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 and you don't have that Katsu ability to swap it out for something more aggressive, right? So in that matchup specifically, are you running those Flick Flacks? Are we not?
Yeah, I scientific flag swapping the spinning wheel out because it's a block 2. And I think it's important to block out their dominate arrow in this matchup because They always want to have their dominant arrow to chip damage. And it's also good when they have, for example, a rare in leisure dominate. So they usually won't just for 5 dominate, right? If it's 5, you just push your equipment. They usually have the pump. So with the armor and the flick in your hand or arsenal, you can block 7 plus the 4 with flick, and you have a 4-card hand with your traverse, with your tiger from your boots, and you're probably gonna win that game if you can have a break turn. You just need 1 turn to kill them, because Azalea is not good when they have to block. And yeah, that's it. I think the flip side is good to maintain your life total when they try to dominate you. That's what I'm going to do. And
Okay.
yeah, also I want to have my Warmonger diplomacy, so flip side can save some life for me. And they sometimes they have like Bolton Saw into something, or they have
Right.
Rabble into an arrow, and that's the time you can gain an extra value from flip side.
Right.
Yeah.
And Enigma, we've already kind of discussed. You're just trying to utilize that equipment. Most of the time, the way that most people play that matchup is they like keep some gas in the tank, quote unquote, by keeping a strong card in arsenal. But you like to
Mm,
also leverage the equipment in the same way and kind of just have that ready when you really need to push the board state. So we've
mm,
already
mm.
kind of covered that. KO, once again, we've kind of covered that as well. Is there anything else you wanted to cover other than we've already talked about Zephyr needles, the impact of that? Is it
Ah.
just a value grind, or are you just trying to go, go, go?
Yeah. Okay, so what's good about the needle? Because if they block it, they have to play failure. So they block 2 and they play swing back or something like that, which you want to see. Because you need your Arsenal 4 how many turns to win the game, and they have their the happiest to intimidate when you pop off. So that's one extra thing you can do in your pop off turn. You block with your traverse, and even you don't have your Arsenal 4, you can block with your leg to get a tiger in your hand. So they have a possibility to intimidate your crossing tiger, which you don't care. So yeah, I think that's one thing that you want to consider to block with your legs is when you go to the pop off turn, you have 1 extra card for their intimidate. And you want to have a backup plan when they have their headpiece to intimidate you. So for example, you will want to have your Descended Gust Wave or Bonds of Ancestry in your arsenal so they can't intimidate anyway. And you can always just respond their intimidate with your sand. So you activate sand, you search a card in your bandit zone so they can't affect you. And that's what I'm going to do is get my Gust Wave or Bonds in my arsenal and activate sand for another combo. So they can't affect your Descended Gust Wave into Bond into something. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. And the last one that I wanted to cover specifically was Kano. Now, obviously, the AB situation that you have, I'm assuming you run one needle plus Arcane Lantern, and then you also have the No Room Gloves and Tide Flippers. So you're running the chess piece like in the rest of the matches, and then pouncing links. Any tips for that matchup, or is there anything that you're trying to actively set up, or anything like that?
Hmm. So it's a quick matchup. It's only stay for maybe 3 turns. And because we have 28 blues, and so if we draw a hand that is not good to attack, we can always just block. But you don't want to do that oftenly. You will want to send damage instead of blocking for arcane barrier. And um one of the key I think is don't think about the transcend too much. Just in this matchup, you just need to pitch your blue, play your red attack, and try to chip damage before they have the combo turn. So once their life total is low enough, you don't need to transcend to make them to do a play. So what I'm going to do is, for example, I have two blue in my hand. One is a transcend, one is an attack. Then I will want to save my blue in my hand while I'm attacking. If they want to try to combo off, then I have a blue to pitch. If they decided to have other turn to wait, then we can just arsenal the blue, so we can draw a 4 new hand and still going on. So yeah, the key is don't play all your blue for the transcend. You want to keep them in your hand and you arsenal it. That's it.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do in that matchup specifically is, especially when you're on AB3, is to arsenal a transcend card, because then you have the ability, once they're like, okay, he has one blue in his hand, he can AB3, and they do the math in their head, and then boom, you get 4 resources out of nowhere because you transcend.
Mm.
And you can kind of set up those situations where you bait them into it, right? You lead with that biting breeze or whatever that's not very threatening, and they'll be like, okay, I'll take it, and then boom, 4 more resources. So that's one that I love doing personally. So we kind
Mm.
of went over most of the matchups, but let's talk just for a second how to beat Zen. What, as a Zen player, what are some of the things that you hate to see, that really give you a hard time? Run me through it.
Yeah, so any hit effect card is annoying, like CNC, Weakest Link, and Amnesia. And if you want to have a better set matchup, you probably want to pack in those 246, or maybe even Sensor, the 145. And the one thing you want to do and you can do is when they have their turn, after their pop off turn, you probably have only 10 life or 20 life, and you don't want to attack them, so they have their traverse block and have another big turn. So what you want to do is sometimes you will want whether to block it and don't activate their traverse until you have a good hand. And you can basically do this in every hero that's just attack that against Sand. You always want to keep in mind that they have traverse to block it, so they can send you back a big turn. And yeah, also you want to prioritize your hit effect rather than just value. Like for example, the easiest example is you have a CNC, you can do 2 card 7, and you also have a CNC. You will definitely want to play that CNC instead of the E strike. So playing value into sand won't win you the game. You have to disrupt them and yeah, and pray because sand is just busted.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so once again, I want to thank you so much for joining me, Pudding. I really do appreciate it. You taking time out of your day, especially with the time distance. But I wanted to give you one opportunity to kind of shout out the team. Anything you got going on, go for it.
Yeah, we will have a Q&A in our next video. So if you have any question to the team or to any member of us, you can go to check our Blue Page Twitter and leave a comment there. We will try to answer it in the next video. And if you don't mind, you can go to our YouTube channel, that's Blue Page, and we'll post video, but I think last video is maybe 3 months or half years, but we will try to get more video.
Yeah.
We will.
Just got to stop playing Slay the Spire for one night just to get a video done. All right, so just one more question. What are some hobbies that you like doing other than Flesh and Blood?
Recently I just go to the play the rhythm game in the game center. If
Okay.
you check my Twitter, yeah. And other than that, we just play some video games together, and we also get some nice food, I think. Other than that, we're just normal people, right?
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
play video game, we eat, nothing much.
Okay.
My personally, yeah, personally, I don't have many hobbies beside the card games and video games. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
yeah,
I remember the when you top aided worlds, they had the little interview thing, and I'll never forget. It was the funniest thing I've ever read. One of the questions was, "What's your favorite food?" And you said, "Not pudding."
not pudding. Yeah.
Ah, it was the best. So, what is your favorite food?
Um, I think maybe is ramen because
Okay, okay,
In Japan, I eat ramen every day, every single day. And yeah, probably just Japanese food, Japan food, I think. Yeah, that pretty much. I love sushi, I love ramen, everything. So I'm so happy that this year World is in Osaka. So we'll have some great dinner.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think everybody can expect you at Osaka at the World Championship this year. So, if anybody is there, make sure you say hey to Pudding. And thank you so much again for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And I hope everybody got something out of the A to Z on Zen Tamer of Purpose. Thank you. And looking forward to seeing everybody on the next episode of A to Z.